The Bite Me podcast is coming right up, and it is brought to you every week right here on YouTube by Freedom Boats. It is the best shallow running boat on the water, and there is a model perfect for you. The Chiquita 14, the Eagle 16, the Patriot 18, the Commander 21, the beautiful Warrior like I have 23, or the big boy that runs so shallow, the General 26. Chet Moore and Pooty can customize it however you'd like, and there's a dealer near you, whether it's the Boatyard in Kemah or dealerships in San Antonio, Beaumont, Corpus Christi, Port O'Connor, Houston, and Aransas Pass. Freedom Boats or freedomboatsusa.com. How about that? We got the microphone levels all set. And by we, I mean Dean. We should be good this week. This is the Bite Me podcast. Welcome in. As always, I'm John Lopez. Captain Dean Thomas is over there in front of me. Captain Scott Null is in front of me. Captain Caleb McGumber is in front of me. So we got the gang all here. Happy Earth Day. That should mean something to a lot of us. So it is Earth Day here on this Tuesday. If you're listening to us live on the YouTube stream, you are aware that you can see us, you can interact live, you can do it all that. We do it every week at 3:30 p.m. here live on the YouTube channel. If not, you're listening to us on the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Podbean, Spotify, iTunes. Highly recommend that you subscribe on Podbean, because that's where we get everything loaded, every single episode that we've ever done. And I'm kind of fumbling over myself right here, because I'm trying to share a screen to start the podcast out with a bang here. And so I'm going to screw that up. I just did. So I'll get back to that and probably edit this out. But this is the Bite Me podcast. Lots to cover today. A lot of things going on, including a deep dive. You know, you guys know I like when these guys go and cover every single angle that we have on a particular topic. This one is catching more fish in tough scenarios. We're going to start there. And in other words, the fish are there, but the conditions are hellacious. That can happen. So when you get in those situations, we'll dig in on that. We're going to dig in on various different approaches that we have when the glass, and this is from a listener, so you can always send us DMs, messages, etc., from listeners that you can ask us questions. We have another tragedy we're going to talk about, too many sharks. We got a lot on the docket today. We probably won't get to it all, but that's okay. We can have some things that we can cover next week as well. But let's start. Captain Scott, I was trying to share that screen of the audio that you sent me, so I'm just going to play it off my phone like an amateur, because sometimes that's exactly what I am. But I want to just get your reaction to this, guys, because this is something that I think a lot of us are very aware of.
They don't miss.
Oh, what was that? That's the wrong guy. There we go.
They don't miss.
Cut.
They just remember, they do this every day of their life, and as great as I think this fathead kitty is in the water, it still doesn't look like shit. It doesn't look like something alive. The one that really gets me is he missed it. That is a crock of shit.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that. I got to tell you, Scott, I'm going to start with you because you sent that to me. And I'm like, that's pretty good, because I think a lot of us have uttered those words, even though we don't necessarily believe them. But, oh, man, he just missed it. He hit it, but he didn't take a good swipe at it. And the end of that video, the guy says, when was the last time you missed your mouth with a cheeseburger? So fish do not miss. I wanted to start there because I know you feel pretty strongly about this, Scott.
He kept on and on and on about how, fish do this every day of their life so they don't miss. And, we all say, hey, he just missed my lure. He took a shot at it and missed. I disagree with him completely.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, as I'm watching it, I was like, no, things miss. I see jackfish miss all the time on a topwater that's hardly moving. And they blow up and they try to eat it and they miss it and they run into each other. Think about every predator. I mean, I sit out there and do all this photo stuff. I've seen bobcats miss quail. I mean, they do it for a living too. I think things miss. Stuff out there moves a whole lot more than a cheeseburger.
A
cheeseburger, you're holding it in front of you and you can't hardly miss.
A cheeseburger don't move much, and I got mustard on my pants right now.
This is true. That might be a you problem, but it's also a me problem. Well, that makes me feel a little better, Dean, because I was like, yeah, I've said that a lot where they just missed, and maybe Scott's right, they do miss.
And a lot. Well, fish will run into a school and wound fish. They will take a swat at them, and stun them or slow them down. So maybe that's part of that game also. They're taking a charge at it and hoping to give it to slow it down, to wound it or stun it, and then come back and pick it up when it's slower.
Massive schools of gaff top follow the redfish schools around Galveston to eat all the crap they didn't miss, apparently.
Yeah, or they did miss one or the other. I just thought that was interesting, and like, I'm glad you said that, Scott, and you guys agree, because I'm like, yeah, I've said that a bunch.
Was that Neil deGrasse Tyson?
No, it was just a fisherman of some sort.
I'm used to him missing. I thought maybe that's who that might be.
I got you. A fly fisherman. So what have you guys been up to before we get into these topics? Catch us up on everything. Have you been out on the water at all, Dean? I know I'll start with you.
Well, we went out this morning and we missed a lot of fish. The fish missed a lot of. No, I mean, we actually went out this morning and spotted some schools of reds. I mean, as you just see them, the wakes pushing school across, make great casts into the school. They would blow up on it, chase it right to the boat, and they missed it 10 times on the way to the boat.
It was them. It was.
But
them.
It was me and Junior. We don't get that serious. I mean, we weren't out there grinding it out. Fished for a couple hours, but yeah, man, all we ended up with catching was a couple of rat reds and a couple of a lot of piggies. The one good thing about today is the flats are loaded with mullet. There were bait fish everywhere. So that was my positive takeaway from the morning adventure.
Caleb, you been out?
Man, I haven't been out, but I know the topwater bite this morning was incredible for trout down here around us. I've gotten several of those calls. But no, I haven't. I've been working on some other stuffs, but I'm looking forward to it because we got about a foot back in Matagorda, and I think the time is right to go start chasing them schools that Dean's talking about.
Scott, water levels, and have you been out?
Yep, water's back up. All that southeast wind, it was just blowing so much all week. I didn't feel like pulling into that and messing with it. And then we had pretty good rains. Off and on. And then POC got just hammered. They got over 5 inches out of that little storm. We got less than an inch. I mean, I can damn near see Port O'Connor from here.
We got 5.5 inches here in Aransas Pass yesterday.
See, I'm right in between y'all. I don't understand how that happened, but it's raining again today. Got a little rain a while ago, but everybody I've talked to that did get out then battled the wind. They did okay. It was drive-by fishing on a whole lot of them. Anybody trying to drift was going pretty fast. The guys who seemed to do the best were the guys wading, getting out and planting your feet so you can work a lure.
Man, it was blowing on Friday. I took Friday off to take my boat down to Aransas Pass, and I mean, I just went. I put it in down the ramp. And I took it to the marina. Never even ran that sucker. It's such a tease, man. It was like I was in high school all over again. What a tease. That's all it was. I put it in the water. I put it around the little marina and I put it up and then started loading everything on there. And I was like, oh, this is the worst.
How many misses did you have in high school?
Lots. Way too many. Way too many.
Back in your teenage attempt.
Way too many to count. That's for dang sure. But Scott, I'm guessing Camille is in your vicinity.
Yep, she's over here.
All right. So I've got a quandary. I've got a dilemma here, and I don't want to make Camille mad. I know that probably is not a good thing.
That's not a good start.
It's not a good thing. But I really want to go to the Flatsworthy thing. It's the same day as the walk. It's the same day as the walk.
Night.
It's that night.
You want me to double dip?
Yeah.
Good.
I
Go for
drive to Dallas. You're not going to get any sympathy from me.
We're going to go for a 9
I
mile
leave
walk
and drive to Dallas.
I do want to go, and I bring that up because I want to be able to promote everything here before we get started on what I think is going to be a really good topic. Carry the load. That is Memorial Day morning. I may be getting bullied into doing both, but
You're walking on Saturday the 24th, John.
right.
Memorial Day is Monday.
Well, no, but it's the same day. I should say, yeah, I messed that up.
Oh,
But it's the same day as the Flatsworthy.
Well, the Flatsworthy is the 31st.
Oh, I thought it was the same day. I thought it was the 24th.
Oh boy, this is going to last a while.
Problem solved. Problem solved. There you go. I thought it was the same day. All right.
Hey, if you start walking on the 24th, you can walk to the banquet and get there in 7 days.
He raised all kind of money.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of money I would raise on that
So,
one.
so
right,
now
well,
Caleb's off the hook for this weekday thing.
Yeah, so problem solved there. Good deal. All right, so that and then Flatsworthy. Obviously, we've talked about it. It's going to be a great thing. I've never been to their banquet. I want to make sure and go this year. I just need Scott or Caleb or Dean to buy my ticket, and I'll be there +1. So
I'll get you that one on the 24th.
the 20. All right, that narrows it down to Scott and Dean to up the ante for my ticket. But no, I'll get to go to both. All right, so
I haven't worked in 3 months, so Scott, you're it.
Dean's rolling in it, man. You hadn't worked in 3 months. You're not helping your cause. I'm hurting your cause. You're helping your cause there. This dude can just live high on the hog for 3 months.
Do you have Aflac?
I don't see how that is helping my cause.
All right, so I wanted to change things up, and I got this idea because the last couple of episodes, and we like to talk about all the things that are good and important to the habitat and the environment and Flatsworthy. We really embrace that. But I thought, let's get into some like hardcore deep dive, catching more fish, which at our core is what this podcast is all about. It's what a lot of the people that are listening to us right now, we got a lot on YouTube stream, a lot of people that are going to be downloading this podcast. It's what one of the things that they really embrace with what we do. And I came across this. It's catching more fish in tough scenarios. And I'm going to give this scenario. And these are all things that we all face, sometimes, especially this time of year. So I'm going to give you a scenario. Go around the horn here, or raise your hand if you have something that you really want to talk about or add to. And there's 6 different scenarios that I have. All right. So the first one is this. You want to catch more fish. You know the fish are there, but you are in, Caleb, I'm going to start with you. High winds, and you're on the windward side of the bay. And I think we've established that you know what windward and leeward means now, don't you?
Can we draw this?
Windward is the bouncy side. I'll put it in those terms. The windward is on the bouncy side. That's where the fish are. It's where you've heard where the fish are. You know the fish are there. You're getting your ass kicked in chop and wind, and you're just not catching as many or any fish. How do you catch more fish in that scenario? Tough scenario.
First off, was this in the rundown? Did the other guys get a cheat sheet?
No, it was in the rundown.
Ah, crap.
All you got to do is read it.
I'm gonna have to give you my real email address eventually.
All right, you're getting your butt whipped out there, but there's fish there.
Well, I mean, finding a protected side seems like a protected part of the cove seems kind of like low hanging fruit and an easy way out. So we'll stay away from that, even though that's probably the more obvious answer.
Well, let's say you're in a tournament and the fish are there. It's windy, it's bumpy.
It's windy and it's bumpy and it ain't protected. It's got to be in this spot right here, huh?
Yeah.
I'm going heavier. I'm gonna throw a plastic with a heavier jig head instead of an 1/8. I'm gonna throw a 1/4. We're talking about weight in here. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna throw a corky as a corky fat boy instead of a double D. I'm gonna throw a big top water instead of a little top water, and those are all things to fight the wind and keep the. If it's windy enough, it's hard to not tunnel every retrieve you have back through the same tunnel. You can cast out the side, but the bow in your line is going to take it back the lighter the lure is. So I'm gonna go heavier so I can counter the wind there. I'm gonna go heavier so I can get down below the chop where my lure is, below the bottom part of the wave, whatever that thing's called, the canoe of the wave. And And I'll probably fish it like normal from there. I'll adjust my gear to counter the wind and then fish it like it's not a windy day. I might. It depends if I'm up against a shoreline. I might move a little tighter to the shoreline just because the bait's probably getting pushed up there, so the fish probably followed them up there with it. If I'm just out on a big flat, I'm adjusting my tackle, but I'm still fishing the same, really. If I'm
Just
doing
big
it,
tackle.
if I'm doing it out of a boat, it's a lot more power pulling down instead of, trying to deal with it drifting if this is a question, I'm assuming it's 25 miles an hour plus.
Yes.
I'm also questioning why the hell I'm out there.
Well, we all are. We all are.
Yeah. But I'll probably power pull down so I can fill my lure and control it a bit better. And then I'm gonna have to get way away from the boat, which the wind will help me do because the boat's gonna be hole slapping like crazy. And I would like to get my lure away from all that sound and ruckus, but I'm gonna adjust the gear, but I'm not particularly gonna adjust obviously I'm not allowed to adjust the area I'm fishing, but I'm not gonna really adjust my approach either. I might just fish it a little bit deeper. I'm not gonna expect the fish to be real high on the water column if it's just all chopped up and crazy.
That was thorough and very good. I'm going to give you kudos on that. Scott, do you have anything to add that is kind of in your mind right now?
Well, had to fish some of that when I fished the redfish cups, and we would throw a spinner bait, a white spinner bait with a big blade on it, make a lot of noise, and then we'd Lopez it and throw a popping cork in there.
I was going to say it later if you didn't, because I knew that's part of it. But go ahead.
A gulp on a heavy jig head and throw it in there and pop the hell out of it. Make some noise, let it bounce around up there. If you got anywhere that the water's pushing up against it, when the wind's blowing like that, it's pushing the water against the shoreline. It's pushing the bait against the shoreline. So you want to fish as tight to it as you can. If you've got a little island or something that you're working with or a point, go to the end of that point. All that water's got to go somewhere. It's going to go around that point, go around the tip of the island and hit the back corner of that island. And you'll be surprised how many fish will stack up there.
Dean? Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I mean, there ain't nothing I can add to those two.
All right.
guys.
Well, let me do the little follow-up. Let me do the little follow-up here. Casting into the wind. Casting into the wind, and it's a pretty strong wind. What if that's where the fish are, do you just get out and go wade? You just get on the shoreline and start wading? What do you do?
I'll add to what Scott said. Red fishing, I wouldn't throw it a lot for trout, but red fishing, that spinner bait is doing the same thing that Corky is putting a lot of drag on the lure and keeping that thing from getting blown back in front of you over and over. On sight casting and wind days, I threw the heck out of the spinner bait just so it would stay where I put it, give or take. Casting into the wind, again, I'm asking myself why the heck I'm here, but it's the same answer. I'm getting heavier. There's a cast that everybody on the screen knows where you kind of sidearm it and keep it low, where it penetrates your top water, actually go into it and then rise up and then sit down because it's going straight into the wind instead of at an angle where you're not catching as much of a profile of it. It doesn't work every single time, but it'll get there. 25 plus, you're probably not casting into it a whole heck of a lot. I did it one time. There's a check for 21 grand on the wall, and I pulled it off one time in my life, and that's the time I did it. And if that fish would have been, and I'm not making this up, he was going away from me into the wind during a big thunderstorm. If he would have been 1 inch further away, I would have hit him in the back of the head, and we wouldn't have won a thing.
Dean, you got anything to add on any of those?
They covered it pretty much. Okay. First and foremost is you go heavy. You just have to. If you can't feel it, if you can't throw it, the whole exercise is going to be futile.
All right, so here's another one. Tough situation, and you want to catch more fish. Dean, I'm going to start with you this time. Sometimes you're wading in ankle-deep water. Sometimes you're wading in chest-deep water. Sometimes that's where the fish are. That's where the fish are. Sometimes you're wading in the surf, and it gets pretty deep. But catching more fish when you're wading in deep water, Dean.
Bring a step stool. Man, I outgrew wading in chest deep water a long time ago. I really just, in that situation, I'm going to position my boat where I can fish from the boat, pole down and such as that. But you hold your arms up, keep casting. that's when you're grinding, man. That's when every cast is going to be a challenge. Standing there every minute kind of hurts. I mean, you deal with it. I mean, that's where the mental game kind of has to play into it. You know, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
And you just tell yourself, you know, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to deal with this situation and keep casting one more cast. And then when you get that fish, then you have that momentum. You know, if you're catching them, it makes you forget about those things a lot easier, or overlook the challenges if you are catching them. You spend enough time there, you know, 45 minutes or an hour of that type of struggle with no hits, with no strikes. It's harder to stick with it.
All right. So unless you guys have something to add, the next two are
I
very.
guess
Go ahead.
we had a spot where in Christmas Bay, and I had a buddy of mine down. We were fishing together, and we were wading in waist deep water. But there was an old canal that went out, and there used to be a house sitting there on stilts, and it burned down during Hurricane Alicia. So all that junk was still there, and I knew, you know, the fish would probably be hanging along that edge of that drop off. It was hot, summertime, perfect spot for them to be. So I waited on out there, and I mean, getting deep. It was armpits, and I'm chunking out there and hooking fish. My buddy is just a little bit shorter than me, not much. He wades out there next to me. He's standing there. He's throwing. He's holding his hands up over his arms up over his head. He's like, "This sucks." I said, "Babe, but the fish here, man." And yeah, we're getting hit pretty good, or I'm getting hit pretty good. He's missing. Finally, he hooks one. He goes, "Hey, I got one." Oh, it came off. And I look up. I said, "No, he's coming at you," and it hit him square in the chest. It knocked the breath out of him. And when he did that, he leaned forward and he took a mouthful of water.
Oh God.
And then he came back and he spit it out, and I'm laughing and he's laughing. We were round and round. So when Dean said when you do start catching them in that deep water, then it's all good. Not always. That's one of the hardest places to land a fish.
Yes.
Is when you're wading chest deep. I mean, there is just nothing you can do. You're looking, if you're throwing a topwater that's got treble hooks on it, those treble hooks look like they're 10 times the size that they were, because it's up in your face now. It's right there. When they come up and that trout does that last little splash right before you're right in front of it, you think you're going to get an earring.
That's why I don't do it. Belly button is my max. Ain't happening.
No, I'm with Dean. I outgrew that. I mean, you know, we all get ambitious, but I outgrew that. So Caleb, here's another one. A tough scenario, but you can catch some fish, and people, or maybe you've seen the fish, you know the fish are there or whatever. Super fast tide, like a really super fast tide.
Let's call it an outgoing tide. Yeah.
Sure.
That tide. That tide's going to be moving much. If you're out in the flats of Mansfield, that tide's going to be moving much harder and faster in the channels that go through the flats. If you're in the bays of Matagorda and Potoconner, it's going to be ripping much harder and faster through the passes and stuff. So if you there's a spot out on the edge somewhere where it's a little bit happier and a little bit easier to use fish probably hanging out in it a little bit better. So I just move out to the edges of wherever that is. I'd move away from that channel. Or hell, maybe right in the channel. Check it, see if there's fish there. But I would just move away from the part that's too stinking hard to fish. I get that in the river a lot, where one side is just really rolling just because of the way the contour of the river is, and the other side's a little bit slower, almost dead in some spots. And I'll find like that happy medium in between where it's rolling and where it's not. And more often than not, that's where we find the fish at.
Yeah, Dean, this is where I pull off that Mark Nichols special. I do what Caleb does. I'm curious on your thoughts on a super fast tide. I don't even work the bait. I kind of throw it out there and let the bait just go with the tide and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to speed up the whole process. I mean, if you've ever threw a dry fly in the rivers up in the mountains, you know, where the current is swimming by, you pick it up, put it back, you pick it up and put it back. I mean, there's everything is just going to happen a lot quicker. And you're going to get a lot of exercise. You're going to get a lot of workout. But then also, you know, back to the windy situation, go heavier also. You know, something that's going to sink a little more dramatically. It's going to fight that current, just, you know, and kind of keep some kind of a natural look to it as it is drifting in that current. But then, you know, that's the other challenge to that. You know, you throw something in there, the current's going to take off with it so fast. If it doesn't look natural, if it doesn't have some kind of swimming behavior to it,
then they miss it.
yeah. Yeah. No, but so yeah, but I mean, everything is going to speed up more than anything. You're going to pick it up, you're going to throw it, and just repeat that process. Throw further up current and try to work it back to you, opposed to letting it get away from you.
What are you throwing though? In terms, I know they talked about bigger as well, Scott. But what are your thoughts on the super fast tide and what you're throwing?
That little DOA Terrorize,
Yeah,
it dives down pretty good. It's got a sleek kind of feel to it. It goes into the current better. I fish the currents a lot at the jetties, and one of the things that Mark taught me a long time ago, because I used to throw up current all the time and let it drift back to me. Now in the bays, I probably still would. Redfish, trout, they're going to be laying in wait. You know, they're facing into the current. You throw up current from you, let it go as natural as possible, like a DOA shrimp, and just let it float back to you. And when it gets even with you, reel in through it again. At the jetties, one of the ways that we've been catching a lot of these fish is throwing down current and letting that Terrorize and that current just vibrates, and it gets down pretty good and it stays down pretty deep.
You just leave it there.
You can just reel it back real slow, like slow and easy. And I didn't think that thing had that much movement until I started watching it in some clear water, and it's vibrating like a little rattle trap, and it works. We caught a ton of tarpon doing that this past year.
There's certain marshes that we fish that are near passes where when the tide comes in, it comes in really, really hard. And we'll actually do what Scott was saying in the marsh, where we'll flip a paddle tail out there and just almost let the current hold it up and have it fluttering. I mean, it might take 3 or 4 minutes to get it back in when the tide's really rolling in. And it just sits right above the shell and it sits still and it flutters just like a bait fish would be sitting on top of it. There's other times of the year whenever those little floating crabs are real prevalent back there, where we'll throw small topwaters out and not even work them, just let them drift in the current where it's coming through, and that little topwater will roll. If you think it's being silent while it's doing that, you're kidding yourself. That you take a topwater in your hand, and just rock it back and forth. It's making noise, and just let it roll like a floating crab. And a lot of times, that's the only way you can catch a redfish. Whenever those little crabs are in, to me that's the hardest redfish to catch. Are the ones when those little quarter-sized floating crabs are everywhere.
Yeah, fly fish.
That's one reason. All right, Dean, here's the exact opposite, and it can be a tough scenario. Dead calm, dead quiet. Now the tide might be moving, which is why there's fish there, but it's just super duper flat. Every noise is amplified. How do you catch more fish in that scenario?
Slow everything down. A fly will also work a lot better in those situations, something tinier, something smaller. If you're seeing fish and it's that calm, you want to put it way out in front of them and slowly bring it into them. Avoid shadows over their head. Avoid casting too close to them. But there's days, you know, it has a lot to do with their attitude at that point in time also, because you can have some aggressive fish in really calm, still water that will come and get that thing. And then there's days that, you know, they're going to be way spookier because of that. Or just when it's calm like that, they're going to see you. All those things, those shadows, it's going to give it away. So give them space, cast as far away from them, bring it in, scale down what you're throwing. And I would also shy away from a top water at a situation like that and go with something subsurface.
Yeah, that Scott, I was thinking of you when I saw this and I put this down, because you and I've had this discussion before about, you know, you don't generally have to be extremely stealth. You know, you got to be quiet, but when it's like that, we've talked as much as like even your not just your shadow, but your bright clothes and some of the things that they might be able to be a distraction to them. And any distraction, they go the other way. But certainly, a lot of people like to see the top water because it looks cool on video. Like if I'm doing something on video or Caleb is or whatever, boy, that looks cool, just hopping around. But that's not the best way to go. So what you're throwing as it pertains to what Dean said, and also stealth, super stealth comes into play, doesn't it?
And like Dean said, it depends on their attitude. If it is the calm day after a really, really windy period, like what we've had right now, if it went dead calm tomorrow, those fish are going to be spooky as hell.
Yeah.
But if it stays calm for 3 or 4 days, they kind of get used to it, I guess, and they're a lot easier to catch then. But smaller flies, like Dean was talking about, little small subsurface, go with a 16th ounce jig head instead of anything heavier. You want to, if they're aggressive, you can splat that thing down like a DOA shrimp or a little paddle tail and splat it, and they'll actually come to it if they're in that aggressive feed. But there's other times you splat it down 10 feet from them and they'll change zip codes on you.
Yeah.
You got to read the fish in those conditions, and in order to read the fish, you got to be able to see them. So that's one of the times when Poland really comes in handy. Those Poland skiffs are dead quiet, and as long as somebody's not moving around too much on the boat, on days like that, just stepping from one spot to another on the front of the boat can sometimes send them just flying. So it is one time where I am a little more careful about how loud we talk and how much we move around.
And don't drop the lid on the cooler.
Yes, don't drop the lid on the cooler. And Caleb, the follow-up I had with you on this, it's also a discussion that you and I have had in the past, probably been over a year by now, is, even you can almost create your own drift with a trolling motor, but be careful with that as well, right?
Man, y'all been there and done it with me. There is nothing I like more than a flat, calm day. That's my jam. But I'm also in an area where redfish school well, and I can see them fart on a day. And I'm telling you, my trolling motor's on. I got on 1/4 ounce jig heads, and we are bombing those suckers.
The exact opposite of what Scott said.
Everything they said, no.
Why? Why?
We're yelling and raising hell and spiking beer cans, and it's a big old party. My fish behave a little differently. That's the one lucky thing we have on the Middle Coast is from now until June, they're gonna be in big groups, and they're gonna be incredibly aggressive, and it's pretty hard to screw them up unless people have been pounding on them for a couple of days. But what Scott and Dean are talking about is more the clear flats and the singles and doubles cruising around. But I still won't run my trolling motor much over 3. If I can,
that's what I was talking about.
My boat, I will. I mean, if the fish, because I know where they're at, I can see them. I'm not trying to sneak up on them. I see where they're at, so I'll get on it to get them cut off. But when I get closer, I'll get real quiet on it. But
And
yeah,
so
there's
on
nothing I
that
like more than a bunch of pissed off trout fishermen because it's too calm out there. Like hell yeah.
On that subject, and I was going to keep this story to myself, but
no, don't keep your stories to yourself.
In this scenario today, me and my son DJ are out fishing. So, and like I said, we don't go out there and grind it out real hard. It's all about the tacos and the good time. So after about an hour, he missed a couple blow ups. He gets frustrated. He's over there eating his taco. So he's like, we need some music. And I'm up on the front. I'm still casting. And it was relatively calm. It was actually before the wind kicked up. It was very nice, clear water, real calm. So DJ puts on some music and he has got it cranking. We were the only people on the flats. So even through all of the blow-ups, all of the fish that we missed throughout the day, he's got the music. I mean, full blast, and the best fish of the day follows the topwater. Beautiful speckled trout, 22, 23 incher is beautiful. Follows right to the tip of the rod while this music is playing. I could feel the boat vibrating under my feet on the front of the boat, and this trout is chasing all the way to the boat. And even at the end, when I picked up my lure, the fish is still kind of hovering beside the boat. And I even made the comment. I says, with that music cranked the way it was, that fish seemed uninvolved with the situation. He was just doing what fish do in spite of the music. So
what was your theory?
Yeah,
That some
what was
fish
the
are just
music?
more aggressive? Yeah. And what was the music? Maybe he's a fan or she.
have y'all heard Lyrical Gangster?
Lyrical Gangster.
The odds are probably
Google
no.
it.
No.
Yeah.
No, you just don't recognize the title. And the fish, I mean, with all of that commotion, all of that noise, it was still the fish chased the lure right up to the boat, hung around the bottom of the boat through the whole scenario. So, like Caleb said, he's over there throwing big, loud, noisy things. Some days, we all think we're the biggest fishing geniuses that ever lived. And combined, we're even more than that. And there you go.
All right, here's another one. This is a tough scenario, but it's more on a personal level. But how would you handle it? You're on the boat. It's got to be something of a drift. I guess it could be a wade as well. But everybody else is catching fish and you're not. What do you do?
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Oh, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I only fished with you once, John, and I only casted 3 times. So
I wasn't talking about you, but we've all been there. Like it's just not happening.
I'm thinking, man, this is gonna be a good tip today.
Mm-hmm. How's that?
Because my customers is catching fish.
No, it's like us. It's like us four.
Yeah, I've
Us
never
four.
had that problem. I'm kind of a phenom.
You guys are just lying your asses off. Just lying their
No,
ass. Dean, are you going to tell the truth?
100%. I have never had that situation. I will sit
You
there
have
while
one.
nobody
It's on
else
video.
is
Do we
catching
want to talk
fish.
about it, Dean?
I'll pick up the pole and make one cast just to build everybody else's confidence up.
Liar number 1, liar number 2, and
I
liar
have
number
video
3.
evidence that that's a lie because the only time it's happened to Dean is whenever this phenom was on his boat. Hey, did you know that somebody told me that their stepdad thought that I really came off as an arrogant asshole?
No kidding.
And then he
Really?
met me and found out I was a great guy, but I don't know where people get this from.
Yeah, I have no idea.
The only thing I'm more proud of than my fishing skills is my humility.
Because I've got a lot of humility, right? Because I might be the most humble person on the planet.
There's nobody more humble than me.
Every once in a while in fishing, a reel comes along that changes the game. That reel is here, and if you're not using one, your friends are, and they're probably catching more fish. For sure, they're fishing with more confidence and comfort. Baits reels are the fishing industry's original CNC milled, one-piece aluminum, low-profile frame, built to last, it's built to fish. All Baits reels saltwater ready and good to go. You know I've got them on my boat. You should too. All reels, 3-year no BS warranty, and they mean that. And a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're dissatisfied, you will not be. I say it all the time. It is true. No bull, just baits. All right, so now set aside the lies. Suppose, just in an imaginary world, I'll start with you, Scott. You were not catching and everyone else was.
You got to watch and see how the people who are catching, even if you're throwing the same thing and it's not working, that's usually what's happening. Everybody switches to the same lure and one guy's not catching it. I've had it happen on the boat. I've seen it. It's usually that one guy is reeling a little faster. He's not twitching his rod the same. He's not letting it sink enough. That's typically the difference. So you start watching what everybody else is doing and try to mimic it, and maybe even ask them what they're doing. You know how are you getting bit when I'm not? And if there's a good friend, they're not going to tell you.
Yeah,
If it's an acquaintance, they're going to tell you.
Boy, truer words have never been spoken.
Yeah, I've got an actual story on that. Donnie, the guy that I give credit for giving me my foundation and big trout fishing and quirkies and stuff. We're standing beside each other one day and he is just railing them. And so I switched the same color quirky he has. We're standing 20 yards apart. And I switched the same quirky he has. And we're fishing the same reef. Nothing. And then I start watching him how he's working it. I'm working it just like I'm actually looking at him and just twitching when he twitches. Yeah. And finally, I can't get bit. I finally said, "Hey, Donnie, what the hell are you doing over there?" And he looks at me, and I swear to God, what he says is, "Just fish normal." That's it. That was 10 years ago, and we still give him crap about it. Just fish normal. Your friends ain't gonna help you. They're enjoying it way too much.
but the other thing is, and Dean, I don't know, how much you've run into this, but you hate to say it because it's all about how you wiggle your worm, as you like to say. Sometimes, and I got a story on that. I mean, it was Nick Mosley and Patrick Gardner, and we were in East Matagorda, and I was literally right next to them, and they were getting bit, and I wasn't, and I was throwing various colors, and Patrick finally turned to me and says, "Throw plum," and I was like, "Oh," start digging, put a plum on there with a chartreuse tail, caught all I wanted. Like sometimes it can be the color, man. I mean, it's not always. It's rare.
I've seen a 3/16 be the difference between an eighth and a 3/16. The 3/16 was the difference between catching fish or not.
It's crazy.
It ain't often, but I've seen it.
Yeah. Dean, color?
Well, of course, yes. Color can always make a difference if you're standing next to somebody and they're just continuously putting the spank on you. And then if it's from 3/16 to an 8th, the person next to you could be retrieving just slightly faster or slightly slower, or giving it more time to sink before they start retrieving it. And then it goes to the bottom, and then it's working its way up from the bottom, opposed to working horizontal through the column and such as that. But yeah, I mean, that there are days when touch and color and presentation and all of those things make a big difference.
One of the things I've noticed too, when somebody's not catching fish, they start reeling faster. They start reeling a little bit faster than they would normally. And yeah, they're trying too hard. But something else that I've seen personally and watched it on my boat, when people bring their own gear, not all reels have the same retrieve ratios. Used to, we all fished with basically the same, back in the day, it was a 5,500 Ambassador. Everybody had the same one. Then it was a green Corrado. Well, now, I mean, there's so many different kind of reels, and they all have just slightly different retrieve ratios. So your buddy may have a slower retrieve ratio than you, and you're keeping the lure up higher in the water column than you think you are, trying to retrieve at the same speed he is.
And if you have the same reel and somebody has a full spool of line opposed to half a spool of line, the retrieve ratio is going to change there. Also, it's going to fill up the spool faster or slower. And so it can make a difference.
And that guy with that half a spool, he sucks anyway because he's had a bunch of backlashes.
Can't trust that dude no matter.
Change your damn line.
He ain't fishing normal.
Change your damn line. I want to get into something from a listener that asked about grass flats. So that's going to be in you guys' wheelhouse for sure, especially Dean and well, all three of you, but especially Dean right now. But I know one of the things you sent, Scott, was about this shark depredation survey, and it just got me thinking. Sharks are so obviously important. But I guess, now you can, go to CCA Texas and they're going to have friends at A&M Corpus Christi. I think it's A&M Corpus Christi that want your feedback on sharks. What's the goal here? And I guess I should say, while we're mentioning CCA, not to forget to register at startournament.org for the tournament. We are going to have an announcement probably next week about a certain tagged redfish and where you might see that tagged redfish be released live. And I guess you can guess where that might be. But what's the goal here with the sharks?
Well, in the beginning, way back, there was a whole lot of hullabaloo about running out of sharks. The shark fin soup and all of that, the shark finnings and stuff. And they overprotected them, honestly. That's basically what it all comes down to. I think is they put so many protections in on them that now they've overpopulated, and we see it all the time. There are a bunch of sharks out there. People are getting the tax man cutting their fish off pretty regular.
Yeah,
happens to me on the beachfront. I'm talking, 20, 25-pound jacks getting cut in half, fairly regular, right behind the gills. And so I would imagine that, I mean, it's been a hot topic for a while. A lot of people saying, we need to keep more sharks, and cut down some on the population of them. I would imagine that this is something that they're trying to do surveys about and do some studies on it to see if we can up the limit on them and be able to keep more sharks. Shark's good eating.
Yeah.
And I've eaten black tip shark quite a few times, and there's nothing at all wrong with it. So maybe that's the direction they're headed. Kind of sounds like it to me from reading between the lines that they're going to try to justify upping the limits.
I have a hunch that Dean has an opinion on this, and Dolphin.
First of all, I have never seen shark fin soup on the menu over here at Paradise Key. So I don't know where all the fins went, but maybe those guys over there in China and Asia still have they still have a taste for those things. Yeah, the dolphins, man, I got to be careful what I say because those things are still protected. And
you ever had dolphin fin soup?
No, but here it tastes like chicken.
The thing with,
I don't know, man. I don't know if there is some proof of what is going on with the sharks. Is it a natural increase, decrease? Is it, what is it? Does a shark is apex predator? What is the shark's predator? Is there something that was taken out of the chain that allowed them to explode in population recently?
I mean, I don't know. All I know is I know we've all had our run-ins with sharks. Caleb, how big is the population right now where you go?
Vast.
Yeah.
Oodles. Larry had one take a trout off of his topwater this morning and broke off both his hooks in the process.
Jeez.
And they're a bit of a nuisance.
So, I mean, you hate to just say, hey, we need to get rid of some more, but we probably need to get rid of some more, don't we?
I mean, sounds fun.
Just stay away from the dolphin.
Dean was asking what the only predator sharks got is a bigger shark or people.
Yeah.
Otters and manatees.
Yeah, otters and manatees. That'll work as well. All right, so here, Gene, I'm gonna start with you on this one. It's a rather long question, but there's something funny in it, and I wanted to share that because it was a great listener named Andy, and he said, "Hello, John. I have a question for you, but before I ask, I need to tell you about an argument I got into with my wife over the podcast.
These are my favorite.
These are the best. I've gone back and forth listening to all the podcasts, and I was listening to one from 2020." And you and Scott were digging in on a topic as I pulled into the driveway. So I was sitting in my truck listening, and my wife walked out and threw up her hands, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I looked at her, rolled down the window, and I screamed and I hollered, "Bite me." And I rolled the window back up. She didn't think it was as funny as I did, but LOL. My question is this. Y'all help me out on this. I'm not familiar with this. Steinhatchee, Florida.
Yeah.
Y'all familiar with that?
Yeah.
Steinhatchee. I'm going to Steinhatchee, Florida next weekend fishing, and it has vast amounts of grass flats, miles and miles of grass flats. What are some of the things you look for in the flats to start a drift when it all looks the same? Is basically the rest of the question, Dean.
Redfish.
Besides redfish.
See redfish, start your drift.
Yeah. How do you start?
Well,
and what do you tell his wife?
Yeah, see, I feel like that's a better discussion.
I'm going to stay out of the husband-wife situation. But yeah, sitting in the driveway listening to the radio because you don't want to go in the house, that's a whole nother situation. That's a different podcast to deal with those. I look for places where current is flowing across those flats, things that are adjacent to channels, a little bit of a change in depth. The beauty of the flats, and also with the challenges, is they are vast and they are featureless. They are just, I mean, it's hard to narrow those down. The areas that we fish over here, I mean, there's days I will randomly pick a spot in the
Yes.
wide open middle of a flat.
I'm glad you said that.
No obvious features to it.
Mhm.
Bait fish, number one. So more than anything, and if I pull up in a spot that is completely random in the middle of the wide open, the first thing I start looking for is life in the water. I want to see some mullet. I want to see some bait fish. I want to see some mud stirs when I stop. I want to see some life in the water. So that is the one thing that is going to narrow down the search. Secondly, you know, look at maps. Study your maps before you go there. Find places that have that are going to be some obvious current. And if you look and if you can see the bottom, if you see sand holes and areas that are more scoured out, that there's more sand holes, there's more obvious water flowing through those areas, that's going to be a sign that there is some current in those areas.
Man, you guys are on top of your game. Go ahead, Caleb.
When you see redfish colored mullet, those are redfish. That's how big their redfish are over there.
The mullet with the dot on their tail.
Yeah, if it looks like a little mullet with a dot on his tail, it's probably a pretty good redfish. Cast at it.
Yeah, and I don't know, you know, I'm glad Dean admitted sometimes he just stops and kind of surveys. Scott, I can't tell you, especially when I haven't been.
So,
Go ahead.
well, before we move on, and I'll give Scott the one thing about stopping randomly somewhere, it's also going to have to do with the wind. I'm going to have a spot where the direction of the wind, I'm going to stop where I have a good long drift ahead of me. I'm going to go upwind and have hundreds of yards that I'm about to cover. I'm not going to stop right exactly where I want to be. I'm looking at what is downwind from that random stop.
Go ahead, Scott, because I've done that, and usually it's when I haven't been on the water in a while, but you just kind of survey after you stop.
When you do what Dean just said, make a circle.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure Dean sees it all the time, people run straight into the wind and shut down and then drift back over what they just ran over. See that a lot. Yeah, make a big circle, get way upwind, and put your shootouts out there. Surprised Dean didn't get that in there.
Yeah.
And just make you a nice slow drift across that flat, and be ready with the power pole. If you do run into a school of fish, you can drop the power pole down. I used to do it a whole lot down in Mansfield. Same thing Dean's talking about. Just run out onto the flat and pick an area where I got about a 2 or 3 mile drift, and just set up, start drifting. And sooner or later you run across some fish. If those flats have got any kind of life on them at all, eventually you run across some fish.
Well, the other thing is, go ahead.
Just to add to what Scott is saying, whenever you say you're going to run into some fish, eventually, when you're drifting like that and you're going over those flats, every cast is going to land on a fresh grass bed. Every cast is going to be in a fresh sand hole. You're going to cast the distance that you're covering. By the time that retrieve makes it in, the very next cast is going to be beyond that cast. So you're covering vast amounts of area. And even if you're not drifting that fast, you know, your first cast will go straight downwind. Your next cast should go a couple degrees to the left. When that one comes in, a couple of degrees to the right, and fan those casts out. I've even had a buddy of mine that I used to fish with all the time, no matter what we were drifting. He would always cast straight sideways to the drift because he told me they like it going sideways. That was always his theory. I mean, so, but if the wind is blowing and you're moving fast, you have to stick with downwind to control your lure and make it look presentable. If you are going slower, fan those casts out, cover those areas. And that is the trick to fishing those featureless flats, is cover as much area as possible.
Well, I'm glad you said that at the end there, because this doesn't necessarily apply to Andy, because it doesn't sound like he's ever been there or hadn't been there in a long time. But you said featureless. Like, if I haven't been on the water in a long time, I know at least some areas where there are some features, underneath. It may be slightly deeper, and I would drift over those.
Featureless might not be the proper term for that.
No, but I'm glad you said that, because in your mind,
Yeah.
it gets a little deeper here, gets a little shallow there. Yeah.
And yes, I've also drifted across those flats, and I've told people on the boat, I said, it's going to get a little bit deeper up here ahead of us. And then, at the end of the day, after 6 hours, they're like, Dean, I never saw any deep water today. And it was like, so even, 6 inches, 8 inches of difference on a flat is a big difference.
Yeah. Caleb, you've done yours. Go ahead.
That's one of the things in Mansfield. One of the years we were down there fishing September, and we had a bunch of redfish up really, really shallow. And me and buddy got out and we waded all that shallow. I'm talking 6, 8, 10 inches deep. And then walking back to the boat where we had parked just off a little bit deeper water so we could, park the boat. And when we got back over there near that, you could feel the little step off, where it just dropped 6 or 8 inches again. And we're still casting as we're walking back to the boat. All of a sudden, when we hit that drop off, we started catching fish. And they had moved from that 6 or 8 inches to a foot and a half. And that made all the difference in the world. Then we parked it right there and caught all the fish we wanted. So just minor little differences like that, you got to pay attention to them.
Yeah. Caleb, I know you've been down there. He mentioned Mansfield. You've been down with Wayne, and you picked, you know a lot about this as well. What would you add in terms of, like, you're not there every day, like what I do? At least I know some areas that might be these slight 6-inch drop-offs or whatever. What else might you add?
Yeah, finding those and those are ahead of you can be a lot tougher. My go-to typically is, yes, bait, and I didn't say it, but Perry did. He joined Angler U to help out with this situation, because we've done all kinds of videos on these big grass flats. And if I could find an area of water that was a different color than everything else, particularly like that, that milky, sandy colored water, I would get really interested in that. A lot of the times that water is that way for one of two reasons. One is some sort of current is going through there and doing that. Two, a lot of bait fish can keep it stirred up on those shallow grass flats. So the milky areas are probably one of the first places that I go look. Now you might get to Florida and there's just not one of those. But if you see a different colored chunk of water out there, I might go see what it's all about.
And keep your head on a swivel. You might see a little cloud or two of an actual redfish.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it's not an actual redfish, what you do is you point at it and tell everybody the boat, I just saw one take off from there. I saw it.
There's one right there.
Yeah. Then everybody's like, damn, he put us on them. We can't catch them. Guys do it all the time.
Not these guys, of course.
Well, I've been thinking about doing an Angler U video that shows you the difference between like a stingray mud puff, a flounder mud puff, so forth and so on. You get it. But I kind of don't want to let the cat out of the bag either.
Well, too late, because I am here, and you guys always give me ideas during the course of the show. Real quick before we get to what would Scott do, what would Caleb do, what would Dean do, because spoiler alert, still windy. But what are some common terms that guides say just to kind of keep people interesting? One, you just hit on one, Caleb. I think I just saw a redfish. What are some terms that you guys, maybe not you guys, but yes, you guys have been known to utter to maybe keep the old clientele happy?
I've been catching them here all week. They're here. We just got to make them eat. I'm telling you, Pat Gardner does it to me every time I go fishing. They're here. I know they're here. We just got to let them eat.
Dean, you've never said it, but suppose you did. Some of the things you might say.
I mean, Caleb nailed that one on the head. The best thing you can say is, man, we've been tearing them up all week. Keep throwing. Or, another one is like the tide. The tide runs 45 minutes later than yesterday. So because they're not biting right now, in 45 minutes, this tide's going to change and everything is about to shift gears.
Scott, I don't know if
we
go ahead.
We just can't run out of time until it happens.
I keep it simple on my boat. I usually just go, do you see that?
If it's cloudy,
I don't even explain what it is. Did you see that?
If it's
And so,
cloudy, you talk about how
yeah.
you need some sun. If it's sunny, you talk about it needs some clouds. If it's windy, you need to talk about how it needs to be calm. If it's calm, you talk about
Yeah.
how it needs to be windy. And then me and Dean, you put two guides on the boat together and it steps up a level. Like, what do you mean you didn't bring the damn tacos and let the cat eat them?
Oh,
Scott?
yeah.
The birds are starting to move.
Oh yeah, birds
Yeah.
are starting to move.
Birds are
That's a
starting to
good
move,
one.
man. That's
Yeah.
always a good one. But if it's just dead and you know it's dead and it's getting hot, and the best thing to do is start talking about food.
Yes.
I'm
I
gonna
was gonna.
check-
We were talking about something earlier. When all your friends are catching fish and you're not. I
Yeah.
started talking about how great whatever we're going to eat for lunch is.
I'm gonna start checking my game cams and look at the cows, the pasture.
I try to
Cows
be
are
the dude that
standing
brought
up. I'm gonna
Cheetos
be
to the
like,
summer party.
oh, get ready, it's fixing to happen.
So
I'm
where
like,
y'all
cows
gonna,
are
where y'all gonna eat tonight?
Yeah.
What are y'all thinking about eating tonight? We're thinking about Sharky's or something.
Mhm.
Well, man, they got a good burger. That Jetty burger at Sharky's. Oh man, that thing's good. Next
Coldest
thing you know,
beer
they
you ever
want
drank.
lunch.
Yeah. God damn, that beer's cold. It's good. Man, ain't nothing better on your day off than just sit out on the patio and have a beer. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. I like to just act like really confident, when I'm, especially after we make a move and I stop somewhere. I'm like, ooh, this is a lot better. Something like that. This looks a lot better. No, it
Why
doesn't.
didn't you take us here first?
Yeah, no, it
thing they
doesn't. It
say.
looks the same way as the other ones did.
Yeah, that's a scary one. That's one that I don't know if you touch that one out loud. You might think it to yourself. But I mean, that's essentially rolling up like, oh, this is way better than that stupid ass decision I made this morning that y'all got here.
When
We
it
coulda
gets
got a-
late in the day and I tell people we're gonna move, they say, "Oh, you saved the best for last," and I'm like, "No, we're throwing
No.
darts at the map right now, man."
Yeah, we are. All right, so let's kind of keep this. Well, unless you have something, let me know.
I got one.
Yeah.
When the guide says, all right, we're going to fish this spot and then work our way back in, does the customer actually believe you're going to fish 3 or 4 more spots on the way in?
No,
Or are
that
you
means
just trying
you're
to
done.
distract them with conversation until you get to the ramp?
Yeah, that
No.
means you're done.
You got one chance when that was.
I'm gonna clip this and I'm gonna put it on the group page by itself. Things that guides say.
Please don't. I think
No, they're gonna use it against us.
in fact,
So-
it should be cut for the homeroom class only. It's
Yeah.
only on YouTube. We need to do a homeroom class.
Yeah. Here's my favorite one.
I was
Perry-
hoping you posted that one up there because
Perry just put it whenever Dean says, and he says it as only he can. Let's take a ride.
and somehow that makes people feel better about the situation at hand.
Oh,
And I think it's because they get to sit down and take a break and have a drink and say, hell yeah, let's take a ride. Let's go anywhere other than this.
I just said I'm gonna turn the air conditioner on.
Yeah.
And then when you finally give up on that last drift and say, okay, we're going to go to the marina, they're like, God dang, I was ready 2 hours ago.
You're like, why did
We've
you
been
say
waiting
something?
on you to say that.
How about, man, the bite would be good if that dumbass and that white Freedom hadn't just run across where we're fishing.
It's not white.
Yeah, with that,
I was talking about you.
he left a green layer of gel coat peeling off the boat out there in the grass.
Now,
That's how we're
more
gonna
accurate.
know where. That's how we're gonna know where John's been. There's gonna be gel coat chips all in the water.
Have you seen it yet? Did you go look at it?
I looked at it today.
It's badass, isn't it?
If you leave the key in it, I'll break it in for you.
The key is where I've told you it is. If you
Well,
wanna
tell
give it a-
everybody now.
No, I'm not going to tell everybody now. I had a guy half an
Well,
hour.
we know the key is nearby.
Yeah, but you don't know where. It's in the water. You got to stick your arm in the water. Not even 10 minutes after I finally put everything on the boat and lifted it on the lift and everything, I had a guy text me, saw your new boat. I was like, dang, where were you? I was like looking at my head. Were you stalking me? What's going on?
Well, you were the only fool in a boat that day.
This is true. This is absolutely true.
John sometimes forgets that I used to search houses and stuff for a living, finding evidence and little stuff. So,
all right. Since what would Scott do? What would Caleb do? And what would Dean do?
He's
Is gonna be
avoiding
very
that
short.
one.
I'm gonna give you 3 guesses. I'm gonna give you 3 guesses, Scott, Mr. Detective. Where's the key? It's in the vicinity of the boat.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you guess. Give me one guess.
I just had to go over there and look.
Okay. All right. All right. Wind, and more wind. It just won't stop. We don't have to go around the horn here. If you got Dean, you were on the water today. It was calm. I'm gonna start with
Well,
you, but the wind picked up. What
well,
would
and
you do coming into
well,
the weekend?
generally speaking, it's not where it was last week. This is still this week, as challenging as it may be, it's doable. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not. We're not. We had gusts to 48 miles an hour like 3 days in a row, which
You're telling me.
I mean that's over the limit for any level of safety that's out there. But this week, look, the good thing about this week and dealing with the wind is the tide has came back up. We're way past the full moon.
Mhm.
We have big tide swings. It's low in the morning. It's coming in strong all day long.
Mhm.
So the afternoon when the wind is blowing the most, you can still get up against shorelines. You can still use some of that protection. You can still find clean water on those shallowest flats because the tide is up high enough to get on those flats.
Mhm.
So, I mean, challenging, yes. It's not a showstopper this week.
Caleb, you were nodding your head. Do you have anything to add on what you would do this weekend?
It's better than next week.
Actually, I don't need to hear that.
I'd get those frustrations out this weekend in whatever dumb way you want to do it, because it's better. Next week is it's gusting 30 out of the south until it's gusting 30 out of the north. So go do stuff this week.
Yeah. Scott, I don't know if you have anything to add, but if you do, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Get you some of Dean's drift socks.
Yes.
And just go find you a long flat
Mhm.
and drift across that flat. If you can't do that, get up there and wade. The fish are feeding. There's no problem with that. It's just dealing with the conditions.
Yeah.
Go get protected and wade. You'll catch some.
All right. How about that? We did a fishing heavy podcast on things that help people catch more fish. You guys, I'll give you all the big head. You were on top of your game on every topic today. Really good information, and highly recommend people subscribe to Podbean or wherever you get your podcast. And man, I can't go this weekend. I got an event with my wife, but I'm gonna take a couple of days off next week and really break in that boat. So Thursday and Friday, hopefully the wind will die down. You guys have anything?
I'm just scrolling it and I don't see anything under. I think the lowest I see is 17.
Except Thursday and Friday.
Sustained.
Thursday and Friday is going to be 8 to 10. Guarantee you.
No,
Nope.
It's not.
nope.
Dang it.
I got 10 on Friday morning.
There we go. There we go.
I
You know
don't.
where to find me. You'll know where to find me. All right, boys. Great tips, as Glenn just said, for On the Water. That's what we're here for, and everything else. And send your questions. You can DM me or any of the boys sitting in front of me. You guys have a great week, great weekend. I'll see you out on the water soon. Catch up. We'll talk to you next time.
I usually try to wordplay something, but John offering to give us big heads got me tied up. So let's just end the show.